Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. Hope everyone's doing good. It is Wednesday at about 9:30. Pretty nice day. I think the forecast is supposed to be pretty nice today. So I hope everyone's doing good. I've been continuing to dig into my box of movies. I have a lot of movies to go, and it's been super awesome. I've been making it a point outside of this box that I bought of movies that I got at the big sale a few weeks ago at Opera House Video, and then when I went to Bull Moose that day, it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. I well, actually, just a few days ago, I was kind of going through some movies that I have in my on my shelf, and I was like, oh wait, there's quite a few movies I haven't that I have bought. I've been buying a lot of movies, and there's been a pretty decent amount of films that I haven't actually watched yet that I bought, uh, aside from this big giant purchase. And granted, it's like these are all movies, those movies that I just mentioned. There's quite a few, but I've seen most of them. A few of them I haven't, but I still haven't watched them. And I don't want to be one of those people that like buys stuff, buys CDs or buys movies just to buy it because it's the feeling. Yeah, it's the feeling of it's a lot of fun to. I mean, who doesn't like to spend money on things that they love, especially when you have a little bit of money, and then when you obviously are a little bit broke, it's not the best thing. And there's that that kind of addictive thing about it. But I don't want to be one of those people that just kind of accumulates stuff and never watches it. That happens. It's such an easy thing to do, especially if you buy things at a fairly rapid rate. Things that you love, things that you're passionate about. But I kind of the main thing that I do on this channel is all the reviews and all of the posts and everything that I do are all movies that are a part of my collection. I don't really none of the posts are movies that I've seen in passing, say at someone's house, or you know, I rented once, and it's usually always based on things that I actually own. I try to keep it in at that level or in that kind of situation, just because I feel like, well, if I own the movies and I'm talking about them, and if I, or I should say, if I cover the movies that I actually own, chances are before, even before I've bought those movies, chances are I've probably seen them at least a handful of times. So, and then when I buy them, obviously I have the access to the movie, so I can watch it anytime. And a lot of times I go back. I rewatch certain films a lot, and I try to always check out new films, and naturally there's certain things you want to see over and over again, and so that happens a lot. And I just feel like, well, if I'm going to be covering videos and doing these little posts and reviews on films, it will give me a little bit more. If I own them, a little bit more sense of what the whole thing is about and what the film's about, and make it try to make these posts, especially the video posts, a little bit more personal. So, but so today's show is on another movie I just finished up. I just finished up the big collection of the horror pack. It had 15 horror films on the pack, and about 85% of the films I had not seen before. And really, really, really awesome. Really super excited. And, most of those films, or all of those films that I bought, were all on DVD. Or I should say that the combo pack that I bought, the horror combo pack, is all on DVD. It's 2 discs, movies on both sides. And I've said before, quite a few times, but the quality of the transfer or the transfers on those discs are not very good. But moving forward, I will keep my eyes peeled for certain titles that I saw, especially newer ones, or especially ones I had never seen before, because I was really excited by some of those films. Kind of blown away by a few of them. And I did, again, my go to thing is always buy and to always like seek out making as far as my when it comes to my habits as far as buying movies. I My main thing is Blu-rays. I always seek out Blu-rays, even when I go to Goodwill, which I actually haven't been there in quite a while, just because I spent a lot of money on a bunch of movies. So I've been trying to purposely not spend any more money for a little while. And the other thing too is I don't want it to. I get very excited when I go out shopping for movies. Very very excited. So I don't want to like diminish that at all by going out when I already have a bunch of things to watch, because I like it. It always feels when I get into that state of when I'm in that state of mind of where I'm going to buy a bunch of movies and I find some stuff that I really love. I always get this feeling like it's Christmas morning. I get really excited and I get really pumped up. And it was funny, like the night before I went to go buy all these movies at Opera House Video, I and the sale was really early in the morning. It was like the sale was starting at 11:15. Not really early, but as far as going out and buying movies, it's kind of early. The sale was like at 11:15, and I decided to get there super early, and I ended up getting there at like 10:30. I ended up getting there, and it was really funny because they were Dennis Howard, the owner, and his assistant. They were there at the shop, and they were just starting to get stuff rolling. They were just starting to bring out a couple of boxes, and I was the first one there. So like literally as they were bringing boxes out, and I said, I felt like I might have been kind of annoying in the beginning because I was literally like going through the shit as it was coming out, and it was a crazy day because the power. We had this hurricane pass through town that weekend, so all the power was knocked out. I lost power here at my house for about 5 or 6 hours, and luckily, there wasn't any major flooding anywhere as far as I know, but a lot of people lost their power. Some people lost their power for like 3 or 4 days. I was lucky, it was just a few hours. And Belfast lost their power, and when I went to Opera House Video, they still were like, we're going to still do the sale no matter what. Originally, they were going to do it outside, but it was raining so hard they didn't do that. So they had it inside, but the funny thing was, it was totally, when I got there, it was, 10:30, it was totally dark. There was no power. So you couldn't see anything. So I literally was like, had my phone with the flashlight on, and I'm sitting there going through all the boxes and going through one movie at a time. And so it was pretty funny. But I always try to buy, even in that circumstance or in that situation, I try to always make Blu-rays my priority. And I got, I got a pretty decent little selection. Not a lot, but I got a pretty decent little selection of Blu-rays. And today is, I believe, it might be the first Blu-ray I've covered. I could be wrong, but I haven't done many if I did any. But I would say this is probably the first Blu-ray I'm covering for this whole giant haul movies that I bought. And that is Oliver Stone's Platoon. One of the greatest movies or portrayals of life during Vietnam. And this movie is I have seen this movie so many times. I actually own this on DVD, and I think I actually own this on Blu-ray. It was funny when I saw it in the shop. I thought, "Oh shit, I think I already own this," but I couldn't remember. I was like, I think I already own this movie on Blu-ray, but I was like, screw it, I'll just buy it, and so I did, and it was super cheap, and I haven't since I bought it, I haven't really checked to see if I actually own it or not. I can't remember. Sometimes things become a little bit of a blur after a while, but so I just snagged it up. I was like, screw it. It was super cheap. It was like $3. So, and again, this is classic Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone, definitely in the '80s. You know, and some films in the '90s. He made some just incredible films. Wall Street being one that's just incredible. I love that movie to death. JFK is another movie of his that I really, really love. I would really love to buy that on Blu-ray. That movie, JFK, might actually be my favorite Oliver Stone movie because it's such, I don't know, that movie just plays out to me like just such an intense thriller. I love that movie, and some of the acting is just incredible. With Kevin Bacon and you know Kevin Costner. I mean, I think for a lot of those like A-list Hollywood actors that were in that film, it's like some of the best work, if not the best work they've ever done. Gary Oldman, just an incredible movie. But I have always had a real love for Platoon. It is a brutal, brutal venture into filmmaking, and it's it's an incredible movie. It really does stand the test of time. It's hard to believe that it came out in 1986. The cast, of course, William Dafoe, Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, Johnny Depp, which I always forget that Johnny Depp was in this film, Kevin Dillon, Forrest Whitaker. I mean, the cast is, just you can't get any better than the cast that's in Platoon. John C. McNeely. And this came out in 1986. It won a bunch of Academy Awards. It is, definitely one of the most well known and one of the most talked about films of Oliver Stone's career. He does have a new movie coming out with Joaquin Phoenix that's about Napoleon. That does look. Oh no, actually no. Strike that. That movie. There is a movie coming out about Napoleon, and it is directed by Ridley Scott. So strike that. But I thought at one point he was going to be doing a version of that film. He did a film, I believe, about Alexander the Great with Colin Farrell, possibly, which I have never seen. I heard it wasn't that good, but anyway, I think that this was an example of Oliver Stone at the height of his power. Another film of his that I do like, but I kind of have a mixed thing about, is Natural Born Killers. That would be a really awesome movie. I have a really good collection of that on. I have that movie on VHS. It would be really awesome, I think, to own it on Blu-ray. I would definitely snag it up if I came across it. But this is definitely one of my favorites. One of the greatest war movies. One of the greatest portrayals of the Vietnam War. My favorite film about the Vietnam War is Apocalypse Now, but I think that this movie is, it's a masterpiece, and a lot has been said about this film, and rightfully so. I have a friend who I play music with here and there, and his name is Vince Gabriel. He is a local legend in the area here in Midcoast, Maine, and has been playing music for a living for as long as I've known him, and as long as I have known of him. And he's a Vietnam veteran, and he is, he's done lots of tributes and albums that were kind of dedicated to his experience in Vietnam. And I've gotten to know him over the years, and and I remember talking to him, when I got to know him, and we worked on a bunch of different projects where we were over the years together, where we were spending lots of time together, and so we kind of got to know each other, and I had it came up, and we were talking about his experiences in Vietnam, and he basically saw the worst of the worst. He was in the worst scenarios and situations that one can fathom as far as being in a war. He walked point, so he walked into, he was on the front lines in Vietnam. He served one full tour. He was 18, from California, and he saw the worst of the worst. And he's told me so many stories of just, walking into these jungle areas, and within seconds, there'd be 3 or 4 guys in front of him that were part of his platoon, and they would be killed instantly, and he would have to, like, scramble to try to save people and to take out the enemy. And just unbelievable stories, things that you hope people would never have to experience, in their lifetime. And he survived so much, like it's unbelievable. And I remember talking to him. He's also into movies quite a bit, and I remember one time talking to him about, we've talked a lot about his experiences in Vietnam, and I remember asking him, like, because there's been a lot of films dealing with war, obviously, and the Vietnam War, and I asked him, like, what for you, like, what personally resonates with a, where you feel a movie out there that really is incredibly accurate to what that experience must have been like. And I remember him saying Platoon. He felt Apocalypse Now is an incredible film, and that it does really, um, it is a really great portrayal of what life was like in Vietnam as a soldier. But he felt that Platoon was kind of the definitive version. He's like, if a person wants to kind of experience, without having to, you know, actually experience something so completely unfathomable and something so horrific, he said Platoon is the the best and the biggest kind of representation of what that experience is like. Um, just how complex it was, how messy it was, and how there is no, the line between what is good and evil is completely blurred. Your sanity and your insanity, all, you know, um, all those lines are blurred. And he felt that, Platoon is the closest to the experience for him personally of what it was like. So yeah, I mean, and it's a hard. This film still has so much resonance, even though it came out in 1986, and particularly, the scene of where the platoon goes into the village, and that scene, again, I just watched this last night again, and that scene where the soldiers go into this small little village, and it's obviously occupied by just this by these families that are not involved in the war, and what happens to these people is just, it's mind blowing. And just how complex everything was, and just how disgusting the situation was, and the reason for being there, and the lies, and the way soldiers were treated, and the psychology of where, you know how so many people were destroyed. And but that being said, the film itself, I mean, again, this movie is such a masterpiece. The film score, Willem Dafoe, Tom Berenger, I mean, amazing. It doesn't get any better. Um, this Blu-ray transfer is really good. I'm really happy with it. It's packed with all kinds of special features. Haven't really watched all the special features, but very good. There is a really good little documentary on here of where it goes in depth of how Oliver Stone basically, made the cast kind of live in this in these circumstances for a while, basically, where they lived in this jungle and they had to kind of fend for themselves. to kind of really open up the psychological aspect of it. And Oliver Stone himself, this film is semi autobiographical. This film is about him. He was also a Vietnam veteran, and this film is essentially about his experience. And the Charlie Sheen is basically playing Oliver Stone's character, and it's a harrowing odyssey of horror. This film, again, it's so wild to me, but I most of the films and stuff that I cover on this channel are horror films, and and I spend most of my time watching when I watch movies. I always watch horror films, and so we're in the Halloween season right now, and people are doing their Halloween top 10, top 20, 31 days of horror kinds of things. And I'm not really doing that kind of thing because for me it's like I'm in that state of mind year round, so it doesn't really it's just although I love the holiday, it's not really anything different for me. My habits aren't any different, but I love all kinds of films and I love all kinds of other genres, and this is an example. And so, but the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but I love horror so much, and I love dark subject matter, films that explore all kinds of taboos that people don't want to talk about, or films that go to the murky depths, of the human animal. I'm always been fascinated by those far-reaching kind of perimeters of that whole thing of the human experience. And but essentially, it's all fiction. And at the end of the day, to me, it's about being totally entertained and having a really good time. The you often hear people talk about horror movies, like what the allure is, and it's the same idea of like going to a haunted house or going on an amusement park and going on a bunch of rides. It's the thrill of being scared, and I always feel thrilled by that experience, and I feel a little bit more alive, and it's a lot of fun. And that's at the heart of it. That's what it is. And I don't really think of it anymore or outside of that. It's pretty simple. But when you see a film, like I feel like a film like this that deals with true horror, like real horror, it's always it always reminds me of you know how horrible things can be, and situations that are occurring in our world, and how I think on one hand the human animal is capable of just incredible acts of compassion or incredible feats of you know art, creations in art, through literature, through dance, through music, painting, through food, through sex. Just capable of such wondrous, beautiful things. But then also, man is capable of, the most ungodly atrocities that he can commit on his fellow man. It's just, and I think that in that regard, how disgusting humanity is in some ways, and just how no other species does that to its own kind, and and no other species tries to have complete dominion over their environment like the human animal. And I feel like this is an example of how man is the most vicious creature to walk the earth. I mean, and it never. And the other thing that was wild watching this film, this came out. This was based on the Vietnam War, which happened during the '60s, and this film came out many years later. And this film, compared to today's standards, came out many years later, many years before, so 1986, and we're in 2023. And we're right now the world is is always in a state of chaos, but with the whole Palestinian-Israeli conflict that's going on right now, in some regards, it's kind of worse than ever, and it's and amongst many other things. And I'm like, after I watched this film, I just was like, God, I mean, talking about true horror and truly horrific conditions that are created by man and that are perpetrated, you know, uh, where man subjugates other men and women to complete and utter terror. And it's like nothing changes. It's like the most vicious, brutal creature on the face of the earth. No other species does this to one another. And I'm like, the core essence of this story is what's happening now, and there's no difference. It's like man is just such an incredibly cruel beast, and I'm just like, talk about true horror. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. But unbelievable movie. This movie is definitely has been very much acclaimed over the years, rightfully so, and most people out there have probably seen this, but I definitely highly recommend seeing this on Blu-ray. It's pretty incredible. One of the greatest roles of all of these great, fantastic actors that are in this film. Easily one of the best Oliver Stone movies. So yeah, 1986. It's a masterpiece, Platoon. So thanks again. This is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace.